Yeah, my name is Phillip Blond. I'm the director of ResPublica, a UK-based think tank, and we've been running for nigh on 3 years now, and we come up with policy ideas for governments around the world. We're in a very peculiar situation in British politics at the moment because nobody is doing what I call a majority offer. Nobody is speaking to what most citizens want or need. The Conservative Party is trapped in a secure its base strategy, so all of its energy is going into securing itself against erosion by UKIP, so it's heading towards the right in that regard. And the Labour Party inexplicably has come up with a superb narrative, One Nation Labour, but it's utterly failed to populate it. And the length of time between the launch of that meta-narrative, if you will, and policy adoption of ideas that could populate it has been too long. So now, as it were, both are in crisis because neither is really delivering anything that could take them into a majority position in the House of Commons. I actually think there is no political momentum attached to any one party. We're in a situation where neither main party is breaking through to what would be a clear winning position. We're in a situation where support for both is declining, and the winner of the next election will be the one who declines least. Now, I'm of the view that Labour is still on course for an outright majority. However, they're not doing anything to secure that. They still don't have a single cut-through policy. I'm in Westminster. I can't name a single One Nation Labour policy. And the Conservative Party, as I've argued before and elsewhere, are essentially involved in a base strategy, and you can't win the centre from the right. You go to the right, you go to the centre, and you keep your base with you. But neither party is doing that. I think Syria is very, very interesting geopolitically, because I think most of the analysis around Syria is wrong, and most of the critiques of what happened in the House of Commons are wrong. The basic situation in Syria is we've got a very evil man in power who's also been fought by very evil forces. There's nothing in the rebel forces that is free from Al-Qaeda and fundamentalist Islamic influence. And the rebel forces in Syria are the same forces that are engaged in mass killings of Christians and indeed Shia. So what we have a situation is where a very evil man is fighting very evil forces. So it's not clear how one can intervene in order to secure the good, which I think is the rightful wish of many Western powers. The key task, I think, in intervening is to exact a price for the use of chemical weapons, and I think that wish is right and proper. But how to do that, but not tip the balance of power in favour of one form of evil or another, is the issue. Really, we needed to do a form of successful politics much, much earlier than currently we're doing. And so I think that I don't think Cameron should be embarrassed, and actually what's actually happening, all other democracies are falling in line behind Westminster. So I think Westminster and Parliament actually struck a blow for the genuine complexities of the situation, and I think other democracies are following suit. So I think it was a victory for Westminster Parliament, really, not a defeat for any political leader. What we're seeing, and what we've seen for a while, is leaders of parties who are not fully in control of their party. In the Conservatives, it's George Osborne who's really in control of policy, and in the Labour Party, it's Ed Balls who's really in control of policy. And this reflects, almost goes back to Thatcher, Lawson, Blair and Brown. And what I think it shows is the troubles leaders face when they delegate out authority. And I think effectively what is happening in the Labour Party is Ed Balls is vetoing anything that John Cruddas proposes, and so the Labour Party can't move forward. And I think that if Miliband wants to move forward, he's going to have to assert his own power. But I think he doesn't, because actually he himself, I suspect, is not fully convinced of the One Nation narrative. And he hasn't come up with any cut-through ideas that would show that he's behind his own account of what needs to be done. So it's a very peculiar situation where, oddly, a lack of philosophical and intellectual power on the part of leaders is making them crucially weak. Out of 10, I'm afraid I think the performance of the coalition is mediocre. I would give it 5. I think in some areas they've done great work, but I think they haven't created a new thematic offer. They haven't created new institutions, and they haven't addressed many of the deep structural problems in the country. So I think much more work to be done.